Are you ready to dive deep into meaningful discussions, explore personal stories, and gain practical insights that can transform your approach to mental fitness? Well, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Real Talk Mental Fitness Podcast, where open conversation and authentic connections come together to empower your mental well-being. I'm your host, Chinazom, and I'm so excited to have you here with us today.
Yes, definitely. Well, I definitely want to just tell us a little bit more about executive health. How would you describe how you support your clients the most?
Yeah, so it's precision health and performance, meaning that everyone starts off as a blank canvas, and then we do a lot of I love data, so we do a lot of different tests and assessments before creating any type of nutrition, fitness, lifestyle plan, you name it. There's options for medical as well. This is really I love how athletes had a performance team, and I wanted to simulate that not even just for myself personally, but also for other people. I thought it would just be cool to do, no matter what it took. And so it took a lot of different random logistical things. But I really wanted to give someone a state of the art experience, because a lot of times do you have to lower your ambition because you work too much for your health? I think we don't have to. I think you just have to get more strategic and more precise. And you can stay just as ambitious so you can still take over the world without sacrificing your health. And so that's the thing that that was really at the central crux of my answer. And creating more executive athletes. All of us that are athletes 5 to 10 years, for the most time. But all of us in business in some capacity or just your career, we're in this for decades. And so we have to think like that. So we are the ultimate athletes. We don't have off seasons.
No, we don't.
There are no off seasons.
No.
I go where the business goes. The business goes where, and it's always there. So we have to really think like an athlete and have this longevity in mind. And so that's why it's so important with our mindset. I don't have mindset on the website, but really and truly, that's really the first few things I look into is really the identity. Because if you're not even getting the buy-in and ready to receive and even have the identity of someone who all these tools are not going to be beneficial for you because the internal work is not there. So that's the first thing, because you're thinking about this as like building a house. All of these, the MRI machines, the genetic tests, all that stuff. That's really that's the decorations in the house. That's the nice chandeliers and those things. But really at the crux, that solid foundation is our mindset, is our identity, is our reasoning for why we must take care of our health better, why we must do this thing. How can you create the stakes? All that stuff's the most important things. Because when you have those things, you don't have to worry about falling off the wagon or quitting because there's too much at stake. So now you're just going to work on your strategy and see what works best for you.
Great question, EJ, because Dreamcatcher's performance seems to be exactly in line with what you're doing. Because after working with athletes, the thing I learned the most from athletes was the best ones were actually the ones who were better at resting. And I mean world-class rest, recovery, rejuvenation. And I love what you just said, because when you go to the corporate side, there's no off season. There's no time to, take a break and you do this for 25, 30 years. So that's why I came with the sustainable. You've got to sustain this. And I love with what you're doing is, yes, mindset and identity is the most important thing, but understanding your energy tank, becoming world-class at that. Because you see people with their phones and they treat their phones better than themselves. As soon as your phone's about to die, you're going to go and charge that thing. Because you don't want to be, but when I ask people is like, where's your energy level? Nobody can ever give me a good enough answer, because you're not actually tuning in to like, when do I need to charge? What do I put in to charge myself? And that's a big part where I really wanted to get people to understand that. I love what executive athletes, I think we call it corporate athletes, right? Where since I've been working with people, it's like, you are an athlete. So you got to get your inner work on point. You got to understand your identity. You got to tap into the inner wisdom, because there's something inside of you. If you connect your heart and your head, it's something that tells you the thing that you're visualizing. It tells you, all right, this is what you need to do to go and get it. And a lot of time we're not even listening to that. So then you also need the performance strategies. So every time you have to go and perform, what's your pre-performance routine? get into the flow zone, perform. Then you got to recover and evaluate. But so much time when you get into corporate, it's just you're just going around and around, and it's like that's just going to lead to burnout.
Well, I think the interesting thing is a lot of times with corporate, the more resources you have, the more you can grow, and the quicker you can grow. And while there is a lot of similarities between health and business, this is one similarity that's not there, because in health, it's not necessarily the more that you push on the gas pedal, the faster and the healthier that you're going to get, because it's a delicate balance, and you have to have your body ample time to recover. Now, over the course of time, you're able to endure a lot more. So, like when I started running as well, in addition to lifting, I was not too good at running, and I tried to just go from 0 to 100, and I was quickly humbled by that experience. But now, what I did during that first week is pretty much a very light week for me now. But that's because I built up the capacity to handle that thing
Mm.
and the resiliency. So, a lot of times, one thing that's helped me get the point across to other individuals is that even if we're not looking at this from a body composition standpoint, or even just from we're looking at your biomarkers from a lab test, how is your resiliency? How quickly do you bounce back if you do get sick or if you don't feel well? How quickly is your recovery from that? You know, how much capacity do you have? How much can you handle on your plate each day without tipping over? So those are things usually that can sometimes get the point across to people, because different people are going to be motivated by different things. Some people, for myself, I'm a very intrinsically motivated person. So I've done ultra marathons, and I didn't sign up for an event. I just went outside and did my miles. I didn't really need a medal or any events with people. I just needed to prove a point to Julian. Whereas other people, they're more community oriented, and that really gets them going. So, and you know this probably now as well, that so a lot of part with the coaching is finding what really motivates you, and what really connects you, and then looking it through everything through the lens of that thing that you're really connected to.
Mm.
I love that. And have you found, because I love the distinction you make between, those that are intrinsically motivated and community motivated. What would you say has been sort of, if when you can look back with the work you've done with your clients, what have been the biggest learning that keeps coming up, that you've heard from them, either through when they talk about their experience or even for yourself in the work that you're doing with them?
For myself, being really intrinsically motivated, um, I think then it's usually these people like this are there's a dark side. There's a dark side. There's a really strong drive, and you can flirt with kind of getting to the other side to where it's a little more toxic. It's a little more detrimental to yourself. And so it's a fine line. But if you learn how to control that fire, right, it's a really beautiful thing. So for me, I give permission to, like, if you have this type of drive in yourself, if you really want to like prove a point or something, or prove people wrong or they make the wrong decision, I want them to accept that. But
Mhm.
now we're going to learn how to harness that, because if you look at a boxer, they're or NBA player, they're not going to go out there. We'll use the boxing analogy. They're not just going to go out there full of rage and everything. It might look like it, but they're actually very in control of that rage, because we all know if you're full 100% raging, you're not thinking that as sharp as you can, and you're actually more susceptible to getting a counterattack in,
Mm.
in the ring or anything. So it's have that rage, have that fire, but learn how to harness it and control it.
Mm. Relaxed, controlled aggression.
I knew you were gonna say that.
That's
That's his MO. That's
what
his
it's like just nailed it. And I learned that through sports where
yes.
if you're too aggressive, I love boxing as well. You're gonna get knocked out, and you're gonna just wear out your energy. But you have to be kind of relaxed, and then when you get the relaxed, you can control the aggression. So that's why I get that relaxed, controlled aggression. It's bringing that right. And I love this thing you said about fire, because I never realized I was a type A personality. I went all through my life and like I'm just chilled, and a friend said it to me when we just moved over to the US. My wife here just agreed, yeah, of course. And I was like, what? I didn't know this about myself. Then I thought it's a bad thing, because growing up in the UK, you're always kind of pretending that you don't really care or you're not really trying because it doesn't look cool. But then coming over here, then I had to just accept that no, if I care about something, I'm going to give it everything I can obviously in a relaxed, controlled way. So I loved what you just said about accept that the fire is there and then learn how to harness it.
Yeah, because that's part of our superpower. Whereas for others, it's all about. I have a friend who's all about the collective, and I say you just want to heal the world. I call them we are the people, because it's all about harmony. It's all about just taking care of the collective good. Not that I don't care about it, right? It's just that my first thought is to really unlock myself, and then I can pour out. Whereas his is, and it's going to be a little different, and it's really ensuring that everybody else is taken care of. And so, but that's what drives him to work every day in his business, is that the more he pours into his business, the more that other people are going to benefit, right?
Yeah.
So we're probably getting to the same destination. It's
Mm,
just that our mindset and our mental approach throughout the day is going to be vastly different.
yeah. It's what gives you energy. So your energy comes from take care of yourself first so that you can pour out. But
Yeah.
your
Mhm.
friend is basically take care of others and then that fills his energy.
Yeah, I took the Clifton Strengths Finder. It's a
Yeah.
Clifton Strengths 34. Yeah, yeah, I took that, and that it made a lot of sense, because I think harmony or something like that was like number 32 or 33. And so number one was future, which makes sense, and I believe the second was competition, and I forgot the other ones, but uh, it was actually surprisingly accurate, because normally I'm like, whatever, I'll do it. But I did a coaching session around this, and it made sense. I was like, wow, this thing's actually pretty accurate.
Me and EJ, we really believe in flexing though and coping. Because it's funny when we got married, we did a personality test.
Yes,
And
we
the
did.
way you approach challenge and opportunity, and the way you communicate with people. So EJ was always the opportunity. It's okay to share.
Go ahead. Oh, please.
It's always that she just looks for the opportunity. So if there's an opportunity there, she's going to go for it. Doesn't think about the if. So the way they put it is like, if there's cheese and you're mice, are you looking for the cat? EJ doesn't care about the cat. She just sees the cheese. She's going. Whereas I would be, where's the cat? Like we're not going for the cheese. And then the other one is like when you have to like rally people up, she's the one who's gonna like fire you up and like we've got to go for it, and everybody like. Whereas I can't remember what I'm the opposite of like just being a bit more prudent. But what I loved with that um, personality test is you can flex, you can change. Because I've always been, I don't like when you pigeonhole me and tell me I'm this.
Hmm.
I don't even know what I am. Like you put me in a different situation, I'm going to keep growing. And we've just been flexing and changing over the years where we did another one. And it's quite scary. We're now almost the same. Because
Yeah.
what I did at the start of my marriage
We
was like,
converged.
yeah,
Yeah.
Oh wow! So I guess
Yeah.
that rumor is true. I always heard that, like, when you married, the longer you stay together, the more you start to just become as one.
I think if you guys are close, if you're close with your partner, I think that's true, because it's how many years was it gap for us? It was maybe 6 or 7 years between the times we took the 2 tests, or 4 or 5 years, something like that. And we took it, and we've evolved. We're just different people, but we've converged. We're much closer. And in the beginning, we were very, very far apart. So it's interesting, and that's, I think that's a really good point, is that like we started at the top of the hour with this, you're constantly evolving. And when there's two of you, then it really is a dance, because you want to evolve, but you also want to stay somewhat in synchronicity with each other. But it's just so interesting how, because of the choices that we make and the things you invest in, the way you invest in yourself and the circumstances that you're faced with, you can completely be a very different person than you were just a short time ago.
And that's a very encouraging thing, I think, for people to really not just let that gloss over, because a lot of times we like to think that today, sometimes we may be going through something, right, and you just feel like it it's never going to get any better, and you can always reinvent yourself. You're one great decision away from starting to reinvent yourself, and that's the beauty of it, that things can change so quick. And
Yeah.
a lot of times it's just the decision to say, I am this now,
Mm.
and that's my decision. It sounds super simple, and I'm not going to say that I'm perfect at that, but a lot of times I do that and say, I remind myself that I am. That's our two most powerful words. And
Yeah,
in that moment, you change because your internal state is changing. Even if nothing else out here has changed, you have changed.
yeah,
I love
But
yeah.
so yeah, so that's kind of what kind of got in my head there. And then also I'm gonna have to remember personality tests. I like that idea. So I'm gonna take that.
Yeah, and just every now and then, check where you are relative to where you were before, and it's interesting. Well, the point, the second part about that was just that point around even when you are grounded in, these are my core superpowers, my core abilities, or my core approach. That's effortless for me. That ability to pivot and adapt and flex and cope. I think it's Chinism. That's what the point you were making. Is that like, it's like at different situations and at different points in your journey, you might need to draw on other parts of you, right? Because we're all three-dimensional. Like it's a great analogy when you think of like you're hiking and at different points as you're ascending, you need different skills. Maybe at the very start, you need the rah, let's do it. Or maybe you need the person who's really planning and looking forward. And when you're a little bit further up, you need to tap into a different type of energy and really use that. And then when at the very top where your legs are about to fall off, you need a different type of energy. So I think it's just like acknowledging that, that ability to have some flexibility in what you draw on and be kind of aware of the fact that it's not always the same exact approach that will get you where you want to go over the long term has probably been one of the greatest learnings I have had because I used to over index on my core. That's what I know. It's what I'm great at. It's what's effortless for me. And then as I started to learn more about, all these different things we've been talking about, I realized, oh, actually, in cases like this, it might be better for me to look around and see where is the mice. Yeah, I'm always looking at the cheese, but where is he at? Let me gauge myself, and that will actually get me further than being like that. And I think that's probably why we started to converge because I think we started learning that adaptability.
Hmm.
mm,
Yeah, I can relate to that because I'm the person who just loves to look into the future and think about the big ideas. I'm just optimistic. It's going to work out. Of course, it's going to work out. Why wouldn't it work out? What could go wrong? And then, but it's good that I have some people on the back end that helps with and they're more just the boots to the ground, just the operational procedural stuff, and so that's a good balance because um, you want to be quote unquote a little realistic, but you don't want to be too realistic, but you don't also just want to be just really spacey out there
mm.
to where you're just completely delusional. Even though I think a little bit of delusion is necessary.
100%.
Yeah,
You got to be. It's delusional until you. I think I just saw this in post. It's delusional until you make it happen.
yeah,
You want that vision to come true, you're going to have to be delusional.
yeah.
But adaptability. I love what EJ said in that you also can't just go to your default. I think that was the biggest thing I took this. We have defaults,
Hmm.
is what comes naturally. So at every point, you just think, oh, what's my default? But when you're climbing a mountain, like what EJ said at the beginning, you need the opportunity, rabble riser, let's go. But when you're just close to that summit where it's really slippery, really steep, and it's dark and everyone's tired, then you need the person like, guys, I think we need to let's find a base and wait till tomorrow. Because otherwise you try and climb and then you might fall off. So it's knowing having that adaptability, like, okay, which energy in me do I need to bring at this stage? And then you can tap into it. So just give yourself that space before the default kicks in and have that choice, like, okay, which one am I going to use in this stage is a key. But I wanted to come to a question about culture, because where you are now, you're going to have a family or whatever, wherever you see yourself in future. If I came to see you in 5 years or 10 years, what would you tell me about this culture that you're creating?
We should have a beautiful family, a couple kids. Never thought I would say that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's even weird. I had to pause just even thinking about me saying that. Never thought I would say it. But 10 years down the line, we have a family, uh, um, and it's a culture. It's a performance-driven culture, but it's also a culture that is most importantly focused on the process and the act of doing, and not just being and attaching our worth to results.
Hmm.
And I think about that just with when I was playing basketball and even with school, a lot of times you put your worth on, am I going to get accepted by this school? How many points did I have? Am I going to get all district, et cetera, et cetera? If I didn't get those things, I probably felt bad for a lot of times. And that's an easy recipe to see that when you become an adult, Julian, business is a lag effect. So there's a lot of days where you do stuff and there's nothing to show that what you're doing is making any sort of dent in the universe, and
Mm,
you're just questioning yourself. And so you have to really learn that lesson, or you're gonna go to bed a lot of times feeling very bad about yourself.
mm,
So that's one thing I would definitely, definitely, definitely instill in not just the kids, but the wife as well. That the process and everything is really what matters. Um, I think about things like reading, and so our credits going to be on reading. So even if they wanted a toy, we get the toy, but you have to earn that toy. How do you earn that toy? Maybe by doing book reports, reading certain books and everything,
I love
and then we can discuss that. I really think learning how to reason and debate and talk is a huge thing, because you're going to go across kids, you're going to go across maybe parents as you're, or even adults that are not going to agree with you. It does not mean that they're a bad person at all. And that's the thing that I think we lost in society now, is that if you don't see the world the way I see it, or if you don't agree with certain decisions, then
Mm,
we can't be friends. We can't even talk. And that
mm,
makes no sense. And so you have to be able to be a little bit of a diplomat. And
mm,
so, and for me, it's also being a leader at that point. I have to drive the culture of the household, and that's, of course, it's through healthy habits and everything, but it's really through actions. So if it's a boy, how does he see me treat my wife? Because that's the first relationship, and that's going to give him a huge indication of how he's going to go out and treat women when he's an adult. Same
mm,
thing with the girl. How do I treat my little girl? So we can go on little dates, daddy daughter dates, and hold her hand, open the door for her, because I'm instilling that this is the expectation, this is the standard that
mm.
people should treat you with. And if they don't do that, then she's going to automatically know that this probably is not right. It's not 100% probably. There's nothing 100%. This is just theories in my head. When you get to run for hours at a time, you get to think about a lot of things. And so I've given thought about this a
Yeah.
lot of times. And most importantly, even before you would have kids, there's a shared vision and a direction for where we're going. Because, like you two mentioned, you evolved. Who you are 6 years ago is not who you are today. And we saw probably through the pandemic that people evolved in the household, but
Mm,
they didn't have that shared vision, that connection, that sticky thing that kept them together. And so they just gradually split apart. So in this thing, growth and evolution is highly encouraged, but there's a shared mission and vision that we have, and we can continually revisit that throughout the course of the year. And then maybe at the end of the year, we really go through a deep planning session as a household
mm,
and go through that, because it's essentially, to me, a household seems like a corporation. I know people say, "Oh, it's romantic, it's love and everything," but yes, there's love, but there's a lot of other things. It just seems through observation that has to be addressed, and so I think you can treat it like a business almost of sorts. I know it may feel it suffocates the romance a little bit, but I don't think it does. I
no,
think discipline equals freedom, and having these guidelines, it's a beautiful thing. I think it allows the woman to fully flourish, because and it allows the man to really step into his role and do things, when all these things are just a beautiful cohesive machine.
mm. Julian, you've painted the most beautiful picture. You've given this so much thought, and I can't tell you how much you're spot on. And I can't wait to actually bring it into reality. What I love the most is tough conversations. You're right. Like, you got to teach your kids. You've got to have the tough conversations. Love is love is there, but love is not enough. So you've got to have that tough conversations. And the one big thing about just it's not the outcome. So once you can get the kids to believe that's not the outcome, they can start to get the validation from somewhere else. Because, like you said, there's so many times you do things you don't see any outcome, but you got to get that self-love and trust. Okay, right, this is what I said I'm going to do. Just keep doing it, and that validation can come from inside. It's I can't tell you how powerful that is for kids as well, to just know that. So then it's never going to be an external thing that decides whether you're a good human being or not.
Mhm.
Yes, that's definitely one I wish had been taught more to me more directly. I think, just you have the power to define success for yourself,
Hmm.
like that directly taught to me at a young age and given the space to practice that. would have been a game changer. Definitely, it's something that we're focused on with our kids for sure.
Yeah, I think that's the cool thing that no matter how perfect of a childhood, no matter how perfect your parents seem, nobody gets out of childhood unscathed. There's always something that you wish you had more, and now you can just pass it back down. You can take
Yeah.
everything that was given to you and take this one little thing that maybe you felt was missing, and now you're going to include it, and then they're going to have something missing, and they're going to include it. But with each generation that's being passed down, you're creating a more and more evolved set of people.
Yeah. That's our word, evolved. That's what we're going to take away. So, Julian, this has just been, I can't tell you how much. We want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts for giving your time. And the last question we always ask everybody, before you leave, what's one thing you want to share with the world that's going to help with their mental fitness?
Yeah, do it for the intention, not the attention.
Okay. Do it for the intention. Okay.
Love that.
Okay.
And where can folks find you?
Yeah, you can just go to executivehealth.io, or you can just connect with me on LinkedIn.
Okay. So we're going to put your LinkedIn link on the show notes. Can't wait to, we're going to stay in touch 100%. And
Absolutely.
This. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Julian.
I really enjoyed this conversation. It was one of my most pleasant conversations because it was stuff I hardly ever get to talk about, right? And so I'm sure when people listen to this and I share it, they'll hear sides of me that they didn't get hear too much, because usually we just talk all about the science and stuff all the time. And so we got to be a little more real here.
Oh,
that's awesome. That's our goal. That's our intention, rather. So that's great that you felt that and you thought that was helpful. Amazing.
All right. Yes. Bye, everybody. And that brings us to the end of another insightful episode of Real Talk. We hope you've enjoyed today's discussion and have gained valuable insights into enhancing your mental well-being and productivity. Now, before we wrap things up, we have an exciting opportunity for you. Are you curious about your mental fitness score? Want to know how you can improve your overall well-being and boost your productivity? Well, we have just the thing for you. Head over to our show notes, where you will find a link to our exclusive mental fitness quiz. It's a quick and easy assessment that will provide you with a personalized score and actionable steps to enhance your general well-being and productivity. It's like having a personal coach in your pocket. And don't forget to subscribe to Real Talk on your favorite podcast platform. By subscribing, you'll be the first to know when we release new episodes filled with valuable discussions, expert interviews, and practical tips for leading a fulfilling life. You can also connect with me, Chinazom, on social media. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook for daily inspirations, updates on upcoming episodes, and behind-the-scenes peeks into the Real Talk community. Remember, your mental well-being matters, and taking small steps towards improvement can make a significant difference in your life. We're here to support you on your journey. Thank you for tuning in today, and a special thank you to all our listeners who have joined us on this incredible podcasting adventure. Your support means the world to us. Until next time, keep striving for a better version of yourself. Take care and stay mentally fit.